The December portion of the schedule is underway for the Illinois State men's basketball team, and we're back with our 4th episode of the Redbird Rundown. Once again, I'm your host, Assistant Sports Editor Joe Deacon, alongside beat reporter Jim Benson. Jim, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Joe.
Jim, the Birds are now 3-3 following a split of their 2 home games since last week's show. They needed overtime to get by Youngstown State, then absorbed a close loss to a tough VCU team that had just fallen out of the top 25.
Yeah, it's kind of weird a little bit. They played much better in the second game of the week, VCU, than they did against Youngstown, and they lost that game and won the one which they probably could have lost real easily. So I mean, that's just the way things work out sometimes.
Yeah, looking first at that Youngstown game, as you said last week, the Penguins were kind of a team that ISU should beat by about 15 points, and while they did win by 12, it probably wasn't quite the showing they expected. That said, Bobby Hunter had his second 20-point game, and Deontay Hawkins with 18 points and 15 rebounds.
Yeah, but you know what they did? They had another lapse to start the second half like they did in their previous home game against Utah State. And Youngstown State came out, and I mean, they took like about a 7-point lead there in the second half. ISU had to grind it out. I mean, sometimes you have to do that. It's not pretty, but they got the job done, and I guess in the end, you know, they got the W, and that's what counted.
Yeah, put that win in the books. Then again, kind of like you said against VCU, they probably played a little better in the loss than they did in the win over Youngstown. Paris Lee kind of helped control that havoc defense that VCU plays and got ISU out to an early lead. They were in it until the final seconds, just didn't quite finish.
Yeah, and what I really liked about ISU this game, they really played hard the whole game, and they competed hard and all that. The defensive pressure of VCU, it's called the havoc defense for a reason. They create havoc, and a couple of the ISU guards had a hard time with it. It was a great thing Paris Lee was on his game because it could have gotten ugly there. But the thing in the game, I thought more than the turnovers was the 19 offensive rebounds VCU got. That created a lot of opportunities. They were ferocious rebounders. I mean, some of their guys weren't the tallest guys in the world, but boy, they went after the rebounds hard. And I think maybe if ISU learns a lesson from anything in this game is that you really got to go to the boards hard when you play an athletic team like VCU.
Yeah, and 4-point games, giving up second chance points is really going to be a difference.
Exactly.
So it kind of seems to me that one of the things I've noticed over the first 6 games, it seems like they're playing either up or down to the level of their competition each game. And when you do that, it's kind of like a coin flip. So it's kind of not really a surprise that they're 3-3 right now.
Exactly. And I'm sure Coach Muller's probably telling them the same thing. I think a lot of teams early in the year do that. You know what I mean? They get up for the bigger teams, and then the teams that they should beat by 15 points, they kind of struggle against. I think the thing maybe they learned from the VCU game, which they're hoping is the lesson carried forward, is when they play hard, they can play with the better teams in the country. So if you do that against, you know, the average teams, you should beat them by 15. So, you know, it's early in the season. You know, we're only 3 weeks into the season, so. You know, if we're talking about this problem again in another month, then it's a problem.
Yeah, I think it kind of just occurred to me. I mean, if you look at 3 losses, the Utah State one is the one that kind of stings a bit, but the other 2 losses really can't be considered bad losses to Seton Hall and VCU.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. I mean, beginning of the year, you would have thought, you know, they got into the championship game of Paradise. You know, they were going to play obviously a very good team.
Right. And
then obviously VCU was, you know, ranked 14th last week. So the Utah State loss, you're right, it does sting a little bit.
Yeah, but that was the opener, so you can kind of see some of that. But the Redbirds only play 1 game over the next week. They're heading down south to face Alabama Birmingham. The UAB athletic department's kind of had a rough week. The university has dropped football, and the athletic director is stepping down. The Blazers basketball team, they're 2-5 entering Thursday's game against Morehead State. 3 of those losses were to ranked opponents in that Battle for Atlantis tournament.
Yeah, their first game there, they really got ripped by Wisconsin. Wisconsin's number 2 in the country. Yeah. I mean, there's no shame there.
Right.
They came back, and then they played pretty decent against a Florida team that's, you know, let's say it, they're struggling a little bit, but they're still, at the end of the season, they're going to be a top 25 team.
Sure.
And then last game they played UCLA, got down big early, they made a comeback. So it was the first time in their program history they played 3 ranked teams in a row. I mean, that's tough sledding for anybody. So I'm sure they're seeing this game against Morehead on Thursday, and then with Illinois State coming to town on Sunday, these are 2 very winnable games for them.
Yeah. UAB also does boast some ties to the Bloomington Normal basketball community. Blazers assistant coach Jeff Wolburn coached at Central Catholic, and freshman guard Nick Norton was one of the stars on the Saints championship team last year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of talking to them later this week, and then seeing them when I'm down in Birmingham. And Jeff was also a former ISU assistant in the early 1990s with Kevin Stallings. Nick is just playing great for UAB. UAB, they brought in kind of what they thought was a heralded freshman class, and Nick wasn't one of the guys that they mentioned as being one of the herald, and he started all 7 games. His 6.4 points per game. He had 17 against UCLA, made 5 of 8 threes. And then his assist-to-turnover ratio is 3.6, which for a freshman point guard is outstanding, especially, you know, considering the competition he's played.
Yeah. Is
just outstanding. And you know, they always say, quote-unquote, coach's son. His father, Randy, is the UAB women's basketball coach. And Nick just always knew how to play. He just knows how to play the game. And he's not the biggest guy. He's only 5'10", but he's getting the job done there, that's for sure.
Yeah, kind of a late commit, but a nice get for the Blazers.
Oh, great get for them.
Yeah. Well, Jim will be online once again for the pregame chat before Sunday's 2 p.m. game in Birmingham, and you can always follow him on Twitter for updates during the game. You're also welcome to follow me, too. What are those Twitter handles there, Jim?
No, you always do that. Capital P, small g, underscore Benson, B-E-N-S-O-N, and capital P, small g, underscore Deacon, capital D-E-A-C-O-N.
Yeah, he got my name right.
Yeah, there we go.
Also, as a reminder, if you'd like to send in a question or a topic for future shows, you can email me at jdeacon@pantagraph.com with Redbird Rundown in the subject line, and we'll pick out some of the best. And be sure to put your first name and your hometown in there, and we'll get a mention on the show, and we'll pick a couple out for discussion.
Yeah, and one question that I got in the chat the other day, it was kind of an interesting question. They thought that ISU needed to win that game last night against VCU to be an NCAA tournament team. It's so early in the season to say that. That obviously would have helped ISU's resume quite a bit if they go on. But you know, to get to the NCAA tournament, if you're ISU, you're going to have to win probably 25 games and make a great showing and at least get to the Valley Tournament Championship game, have a great Valley season. So it's so early to even worry about that stuff now. They just need to worry about UAB right now.
Yeah, like you're saying, they need to get to kind of like when Coach Muller voted himself, they need to be high at the end of the season, make a nice run in St. Louis.
Exactly.
Well, we'll be back again next week for a review of the UAB game and a look ahead to the Redbirds' first in-state opponent as they're going to head up to Rosemont for a date with the DePaul Blue Demons. Thanks for watching.